I'm Sue and welcome to my channel. Today I shall be plein air painting in Sarnano, a little village in La Marche, in the region of La Marche in Italy. I am currently in Sarnano. I'm going to try and zoom that in. So it's a really pretty little hilltop town. We've got, there's a playground over here. Actually, I don't know what to paint, whether I paint the playground, but I really like that. I really like the tall trees and the brightly coloured things, or whether to paint the town. So if I've got enough time, I might do both. And yeah, just checking out some locations really, because this is going to be one of the places where we'll be painting for the art retreat that I've organised for the 10th of June to the 17th of June. We've still got a couple of places left if anybody's interested, but we'll be organising other art retreats in probably sort of June, September, maybe a couple of times a year. And Sarnano is close to my heart because this is where I have lived for 10 years or so, and I swap between the UK and Italy. It's a gorgeous little town, sort of in the it's a region that not many people know about. Everyone's heard of Tuscany and Umbria, but no one's heard of La Marche, which is a shame because it's just so lovely. And I really want to bring some attention to the town and the area because it's absolutely stunning. It's got everything. It's got mountains, got rolling hills, got beautiful crystal clear lakes, got the sea, got lovely little towns, it's got lovely medieval cities. So yeah, stunning really. So I decided to go with the town just because by the time I started sketching, the playground was in shadow. So there was still quite a nice light on the town. I didn't have much time for this sketch. It was probably less than 10 minutes in the end because my fingers were freezing. So I sketched with the Koh-i-Noor pencil, just the rough shapes and the outlines and things I could see. And then I got my little pocket painter kit out. Now, I'm not convinced I like this. See, it's messy. It's because it's constantly wet, basically. But there are these side things that you can pull off, so it keeps it nice and sort of snug. And you can just dump it in your bag. You pull it apart, and you can attach them to the sides, and they become your water repositories. Now, my palette's usually a little bit of a mess, but that one's much messier than normal because of the way that it's constructed. You close it back up and you put it in those little, the side repositories, and you put it back into the palette, and it just keeps everything absolutely soggy all the time. Anyway, I quite like it because you can put it over your knee. Here, I'm just putting some cerulean blue, and I think that might be a sort of a neutrally tint blue. When I'm painting, I tend to do quite a lot of wet on wet, so have a very wet paint, and then I'll daub different colours in, so it's often difficult for me to tell which colours I'm exactly using because you can't really see from the paint. It's so cold at the moment in Sarnano that it's difficult for anything to dry, so it was very wet and I had to keep waiting for a long time. So although the sketch was probably about 10 minutes and the painting was about 10 minutes, it was probably over the course of about half an hour or so, just because I was kept waiting for things to dry. Now, scenes like the town scene like that, where there's hundreds of different shapes, and it can seem daunting, but you just want to try and pick out the big shapes. So here I'm trying to pick out some of the sort of big buildings where the sun's shining. I've got some quinacridone gold, which creates a really quite nice sunny effect. So just really trying to block in some colours. And people's minds will fill in the rest. You don't need to be specific. You don't need to be counting the number of windows. You don't need to be very architectural. You don't need to get a ruler out. The amount of times I've seen people that are doing these sort of plein air sketches and they want to get their ruler out and things. It doesn't matter if things are straight. You're just getting an impression of the place that you're painting. And I'm having to dot around quite a lot on the page because I'm waiting for something to dry over on the left-hand side, so I'll paint something on the right-hand side. So that's how it tends to work with watercolour. It doesn't seem very strategic, but it is because of the drying process. So it's a process of just building up colours building up the shapes, putting in the shadow areas when it dries a little bit. So I'll do that in a moment. So here I'm just building up the tree on the left hand side. You can see it's a little bit wet on the left hand side still actually. And you can see what will happen if you try and daub colour down and the paint's wet underneath, then it will spread out. And that's a nice effect when you want it to be like that. But it's nice to have hard edges, it's nice to have soft edges, and wet on wet gives you very soft edges. And if you want hard edges, like, I don't know, you might be putting in a tree and you want to have like the individual branches and things showing, then you really got to make sure that the paint is dry underneath. So I'm using my trusty sword brush now, which I love. It's great for detail because you can use the pointy end and you can use the flatter end for doing shapes like the buildings there. So there's me doing a little bit of detail with the pointy end. And here I'm just sort of trying to build in different shapes. There's that house at the front, sort of the foreground, that's a little bit pinkier. So yeah, just trying to build up some of the foreground area, but I'm realising at this point, the town no longer looks like it does in the photo there. The sun's gone down. So I resolved that I might finish it the following day, or I might just leave it as it is, because my fingers are freezing off at that point and nothing is drying. So it's one of the things, it's really lovely to paint at this time of the day because of the sunset, but it's also freezing and things take longer to dry. So this is as far as I got whilst I was out and about. I quite like it. It's quite loose and free, but not got the definition that I would like. So I popped back and I went over with some ink just to get some more of the individual shapes in and just give a bit more of a precise impression of my little town. I'm back in the UK again now for a bit. I can't wait to come back and do a little bit more sketching, hopefully when it's a bit warmer and my fingers are slightly less frozen and the paint dries a bit quicker. Well, I hope you've enjoyed painting with me today. If you have, I would love it if you could subscribe to my channel and like. That would mean a lot to me. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thanks very much.